Okay, internal capture is also a very contentious item that can be part of your traffic study. And, you know, with a lot of the larger developments, there's a lot of discussion about what are the true impacts. Okay, this is from the old ITE Trip Generation Handbook, 2nd edition, 2004. At that time, they only recognized 3 switchable, interchangeable land uses, and they were shopping, housing, and office. And this is an example from that older handbook. Now, we debated on how much detail to go into here, and we're gonna go into a little bit more detail than you might want, but we're going to give you one side of the calculation so you understand what's going on. I will use the example of 5 pitchers and 3 catchers. We have a shopping center here that, if you calculate it using the trip generation rate, has 72 trips coming in during the PM peak hour and 75 trips leaving during the PM peak hour. This is according to just the calculations. These are estimates. And on the same site, they have a 35,000 square foot office building. And if you do that calculation, there's 35 trips in during the PM peak, and of course most people are trying to go home. There's 171 of them leaving. Now, you would really like to minimize the projected impacts on the surrounding road system, so you would like to say all these people leaving retail are going to be headed to the office. Well, there's 75 vehicles leaving the office, but only 35 entering. So even if 100% of the ins my drawing is horrible, come from land use A, then only 35 of these 75 can make it. So what that leaves is 40 of these trips, or 40 of the balls that are tossed at the catchers, will end up in the road. Okay, but that is unconstrained. That's unconstrained. I have the portion of a invisible spreadsheet that shows just one side of the calculations, and it's unconstrained. And by unconstrained means 100% of what's possible can happen. In that case, there were 75 leaving, but only 35 could enter. It always figures what the least amount is, and that becomes the internal captured entering. But of course, that's not realistic. So that's why studies were done. And I'm not going to go over this right now. This will be in your handout in case you want to go over how everything was calculated. But what I am going to get at is how we constrain those numbers based on data that we've collected. Okay, and just historically in the handbook, tables 7.1 and 7.2 of the Trip Generation Handbook has these maximums. So instead of that 100% that you saw here before, a maximum of 3% of people leaving on-site retail were going to on-site office according to the studies done. All right, and so you put a 3% there. And then from table 7.2, a maximum of 31% of people coming to the on-site office came from on-site retail. So in order to get this data, you can't just count cars. You got to talk to people as they're coming in and leaving stores. And that's very difficult. So in this case, you run the calculations again with the 75 exiting and the 35 entering, and with these constraints put on it, you really only get 2 trips. So, and that's more realistic based on the numbers that were in the second edition. So you see here, so now there are 64 trips that now make it to the street. In 2011, the National Cooperative Highway Research Program added to the data by spending quite a bit of time, for those of us that followed it, finished in 2011 and studied 3 more developments, and they added 3 more land uses to it. They added the, let me get the laser pointer here. They added hotel, they added restaurant, and they added cinema. Don't ask me if I agree with this, but they did. But in this 2011 report, they completed the work that was done and combined it with the 3 developments that were studied back in the 1990s here in Florida to come up with new tables. They looked at Atlantic Station in Atlanta and 2 stations and 2 developments in Texas, Mockingbird and Legacy Town. Atlantic Station is right near MARTA. As you can see, Mockingbird Station is right near the heavy rail, and Legacy Town does not have fixed rail transit, but is probably considered a smart growth development. Okay, here are your links to find the data and the spreadsheet. The new tables have added restaurants and cinema and hotel. And the spreadsheet that you will find at that link contains a way to calculate using these new, what I always call push and pull features, those maximums. And as you can tell here, they really have tried to put information in here that you can use for, let's say, a transit-oriented development. So you can, it's multimodal. And the ITE Trip Generation Handbook now recognizes that method as the preferred method for internal capture. Here's some important considerations which some of us on this floor think are even more important than the written guidance you'll find. None of the factors that you look into in any of these reports, I'll go back here, these factors here are all just the maximums that they discovered from the various studies that they have done for different developments. None of them really ever looked at how much isolation there was. Competing origins and destinations. Was this far away from the central city? Was this next to lots of places where people could shop? The site design. the compatibility between income levels and on-site employment. If you have a bunch of millionaires living in a place that is far away, and most of the employment that's in that development are jobs at CVS and Publix, your models aren't even going to be that accurate. The other is the maturity of the development. This is what I was telling you earlier on, that you know, the arguments that we seem to get into about the equation, rate, how to do internal capture is on the backdrop really kind of small potatoes compared to, I think, a larger ongoing professional debate that is, and I hope I'm not over speaking. It seems like it's a debate with the ITE establishment and the possibly the smart growth community establishment, and they feel that there is a gigantic bias against mixed-use developments. And I have here some very interesting links that ITE usually doesn't share with you in their webinars. But that's all I'm going to say, is that they really feel that the methods that we've used in the past for trip generation are not sufficient for today's developments. And actually, you do see an ongoing debate at the ITE community sites online for things called phantom trips. Because we here at DOT can't leave well enough alone, we have actually went ahead and actually got more data than even the NCHRP did, and Gina was the project manager for that study that ended last year, done by the Center for Urban Transportation Research. And we're going to hand over controls to Gina to talk about the study that was done here.
Thank you, Gary. And as Gary said, even though there are research done at the national level, but here in Florida, we would like to do our own. And obviously, the more data collection, adding to the existing data for ITE, that makes the whole data point more accurate. Therefore, that gives us a better estimation of trip generation. So earlier we talked about trip generation from each individual land use. Now we're going to talk about the research that we've done for internal capture. Okay, the activity that goes on one side, so vehicles do not leave the site. So the more or the higher internal capture, the less impact of that development on the transportation system. So with that said, NCHRP 684 was released, so that methodology is incorporated into the ITE methodology. So we had Qatar Center for Urban Transportation Research to do a separate research here in Florida. So we came up with some criteria, and we had Qatar to look at those criteria and go choose the sites. We had Qatar to look at 4 sites. One of the sites was Creekwood here, Bradenton, near Sarasota. As you can see, they looked at restaurants, retail, and residential. And as you can see, the sizes of each land use type that they looked at. And this site was the most standard suburban of all the locations that they looked at. All right, and the next one was Uptown Altamont near Orlando areas. And this one was dense and diverse, located in a major suburb of Orlando. And as you can see, the individual land use, multi-family residential, hotel, and mid-rise residential, movie theater, and office. And as you can see, the sizes that they looked at in this multi-use development. And the other side is Lakeside Village in Lakeland. This was suburban and mixed use, but very minor amount of housing in this area. And again, these are the sizes that researchers studied. And the other location is Soto, that's the south of downtown Orlando. And this was the most dense and diverse of all the locations that Cutter looked at because due to this development being so close to city downtown. The data is done, it's available online. We give you a link, it's on FDOT's website. You can read the whole document. You can also, if you want, request the whole raw data if you want to look at the data. So what the research did, they really stood at any entrance, each driveway. So that's called the cordon count. So later on, when I refer to cordon count, is the count that researchers or the interviewers stood at the each entrance and counted the cars going in and out the development. So that's called the cordon count. Then they went to each individual site. Let's say they went to an office and started interviewing people going in and out. They asked them, where are you from or where are you going to now? So those interviews were done as well, besides the cordon counts, counting the cars from the entrance and exit of this multi-use development. So at the end, this is the comparison that Cutter did with NCHRP. Remember, NCHRP 684 looked at Atlantic Station. They looked at Legacy Town Center and Mockingbird Station. So we had actually Boca del Mar, Country Isle, and this one, Village Commons, is the study that was done in 1993 for District 4. So Cutter did the comparison to NCHRP, to also the data that was done in 1993 for District 4, and then they use 100% as a margin, so they can do a comparison between all these studies and all these locations. And as you can see, the study that Cutter has done is very close to NCHRP, and if you can really see the color well, the lime green color is the ITE single land use right here, and the next to it is original ITE 2004 method, and the one next to it is the NCHRP 684 that was done in 2011, and the one right next to it is NCHRP plus the study that FDOT did in 2014. And as you can see, the ones went above the 100% margin, those were overestimated. The one way under 100% underestimated. And as you can see, some of these are very close to other methodology or data collection that was done in the past. Any questions? Again, data is available online. The whole research project is done, and it's available for anyone who would like to have access to it. It's on FDOT's website.